Let's see. Let's go to Ashley.
Hello. How's it
Hey
going?
there. Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I feel like I've been a little disconnected from the channel. I haven't had much desire to really watch any videos lately. So yeah, I'm going through it right now though with school. So
Mm,
my question actually, and I don't know how much you're gonna be able to answer this because I don't know how much you remember, but how did you find kind of the what it's like with awakening with going into med school is my question because like I'm not in med school, but it's a very similar in the fact of basically I have a giant hose that's like pointed at me with information and like the stress and everything that comes along with that. But it's kind of weird because the stress I'm feeling it, like I feel it inwardly now, but it's not really like the mind doesn't run like it used to, right? So like I can feel it when it's kind of coming up, but I just kind of wondered what your thoughts are on that because it's a very strange adjustment because I used to like constantly have my mind running
hmm
and like I can tell when I get stressed out because my mind still tries, but it can't,
mm,
if that makes any
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I wish I had a better answer than this, but I do remember it, and it was kind of painful. I mean, it's kind of difficult because with realization and awakening and all, the mind really does calm down a lot. You notice it to some degree, but you really notice it when you drive it, when you go to a situation where you have to really engage the mind, the conceptual mind constantly and remembering things. And I mean, like memorization, massive memorization and intellectual stuff all day long. It's kind of rough on the system. It was hard because there was a part of me that would be completely happy to go meditate in the cave the rest of my life, not talk to anybody, not do anything, perfect content. I'd be perfectly content, probably happier. And yet here I am in medical school. And so I did get used to it, but it's kind of rough. I mean, it's tough. So a few things. I mean, for me, I really, really made a point to meditate. Like I was meditating like 2 hours a day. I would meditate an hour in the morning, an hour at night. I really made time for that because it just calmed everything down so much. It gave me much more sort of space in which to do that kind of intense work. Um, for me, meditation is interesting. Like I can go without meditating, but I absolutely love to meditate, and I really try to do it when I can, as much as I can. I love to do intensives and meditate for days and hours, hours a day for days on end, and all that. But when I was in medical school specifically, I had to do it. I had to because I just needed that release from the mind just getting so revved up. The energy up here basically. It was just like all the energy gets pushed up here and you feel it, and it doesn't just automatically come right back down, or it didn't for me at that time. Over time it's gotten a lot better. It has, as far as like being at work and doing sort of things that would be considered intellectual, have become rather empty now, and it's just happens. It doesn't require much thought at all. And but it wasn't like that 20 years ago, 22 years ago when I started med school. So it's challenging. Find the things that can relax your body, when your mind will relax as well. um and give
Okay,
yourself plenty of time to just chill.
that's really interesting actually, because I find there's a tendency more to want to meditate, especially when I'm like kind of in those kind of more stress, because it's just like the energy, like I just am absolutely wiped at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So what you're saying there makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
really helpful.
good. And I mean, just consider any somatic practices that you may have done or may not have done yet, just to try, that may help unload energy, regulate energy better. It could be anything. It could be qigong, yoga, TRE, taking walks, dance, intuitive dance. I,
Mhm.
I don't know. Who
I
knows? But
love
there could
intuitive
be
dance. Yeah.
good. Yeah. I mean, and that would probably help, just because, like, for me, again, it did come out as sort of thought or just like a busy mind or whatever. But more and more, as the realization clarified, it was just the energy in the head. Like the energy would just be like pushed up into the head because I had to, and just to let it come back down and like dissipate. And now the
I
body
hadn't
regulates it
I hadn't
much
really thought
better.
about the energy in the head. Now I almost wonder if that's almost what's happening because I just get to the end of the day and I just feel like my head is like this big. Like
Hmm.
I, and based upon what I felt during retreat last year with the energetics everywhere and like being blown wide open because that one was wild,
Hmm.
it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember pressure in the head and headaches, and I could meditate and it would just go down. But like, if I didn't actually put intention there, and by that time it was reasonably easy for me to do deep emotion work and like put my energy and attention into the emotions that may be there and fixating things. But I was so freaking busy, I didn't have time to even do that. And it's just like run, 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 go, 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 go. So you kind of get behind, you can get behind on it for sure. So it'll pay off though
absolutely.
in the end.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That was
Sure.
helpful.
Ryan, you have anything else to add?
I dropped out of college, so I'm not the person to speak on this.
All right, let's go to Chris M.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can. What's happening?
Hi, so this is my first time on one of these live things, so we'll see how this comes out. So I can't say exactly when it happened or how it happened, but maybe some months ago, maybe closer to a year ago, I had a shift where it felt more like I was identifying with just awareness, like everything appeared sort of within the field of what felt like me. But in the past couple of weeks, something kind of clicked where that felt like that was just another form of identification. And I started to feel like more in my body and just rest in bodily sensations and try to just rest in these sense fields, just hear sounds as just the sound, there's just sound is just there and the visual field is just here. But and I can do that a lot of the time and just sort of rest in that. But I find that when I get triggered by something that, makes me angry or makes me anxious, I shoot up into my head so fast and I get lost in my thoughts for it feels like I don't know, it ranges from minutes to up to an hour. And when I get out of that, it's like, where did I go? But clearly, I'm right back into the body and into the senses, and it's like nothing happened. But I have to wonder, why do they get sucked into my head so strongly? And I guess I really want to know, is there anything I can do to just work from there to maybe not get so sucked into my head and recognize what's happening quicker to just feel it rather than overthink it so much and push it and maybe try to shove it down is what it feels like.
Hmm. I think Ryan may have something to say to you. Maybe.
Um, I thought you were gonna go first, but
I will.
but sure.
I will. I just thought, I don't know. Use my intuition.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I want to say is, dude, it's totally normal. Like the fact that the disidentification with awareness has happened. I mean, that in of itself is already a massive unloading because most people stay in that. They stay in the identification as awareness. They stay in the identification as the witness. And for that to go, um, yeah, I think that's just great. But as far as like the anxiety or the triggers coming up, um, I think that using different therapeutic tools and really making that a priority in your shadow work is what is going to resolve that. Because it's not that your mind is wander, it's not your mind doesn't wander, experience doesn't wander, it's that your attention wanders. So when this affliction comes up, the anxiety, the worry, whatever it is, your attention fully goes into that, and there's a loss of recognition of the natural state or of your nature. And it's also part of the purification process. Like this particular affliction, this particular pattern is coming up for a reason. You can see it as like a simulation. Life or this awakening process, it'll give you a specific simulation to deal with. And that simulation will repeat itself again and again and again and again and again until the particular thing gets cleared out or resolved or worked through. So in your case, we have this idea that like the awakening in of itself is going to resolve these specific anxiety patterns or these specific parts of ourselves that aren't healed. And that's just, I mean, that's just not the case. It just isn't. Like some things take precise work. Angelo knows this. He's a doctor. Anyone who is in here is a surgeon. Like you need
a specific scalpel. You need a specific tool to deal with a particular issue. So I think for your afflictive pattern or whatever it is that is tripping you up and really making you suffer, yeah, find something that heals it. Find your medicine for that. So
Thank you.
I
but
agree. 100%.
congratulations, man. I want to say that. Congratulations.
Thanks. It doesn't feel very comfortable, but I know it feels right.
Disidentification is always good, you know? I mean, actually, maybe not. Maybe it's not always good, but in the context of awakening, it's nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll reflect everything he said already, right on the money. So the fact that the identification with awareness dropped is awesome. That can go on for years. That can go on. People will defend that to the death sometimes.
Right.
But
Right.
what it does, and there's a reason they're defending it. It's not just conceptual. They're defending it because it's a protection mechanism. It is actually, it's an ability to really hold back from experience. You can't fully hold back from experience ever. No one can really, but when you're mind identified, you can do it most of the day, and year after year, you can totally avoid things inside yourself and all this. Once that's sort of scraped away that level, then we can identify even then as awareness and kind of hold back in a more simple way, but it is a fundamental way. When that's gone, it's like now you can't hold back. You can't. It's very difficult to distance yourself from experience anymore. You'll try, and there are mechanisms that try to, and you can still distract yourself. You can get real crazy and start doing some substances and stuff, but ultimately you just can't avoid anything anymore, and you know it, and you feel it. And so what you said in the stem of your question just laid that out so clearly, and that's where you are. You've dropped yourself right into the shadow space, and that's fine. It's fine. That's what happens. I love what Ryan said. He's like, we wish awakening would take these things away, these vasanas. It doesn't take them away, but it does reveal them. That's guaranteed to reveal them if it goes deep enough. It will reveal everything. How you work with each individual sort of fixation or vasana or pain body, whatever comes up, really it really depends on you. It depends on the context. It depends on you. It depends on your resources. There's no one size fits all for sure. And there may be several things that could work for you. So just try different things. Circling, if you find a good group of people, you may find crappy circling, it's not going to do anything. But if you find a good group of people who are emotionally healthy, who have gone deep with things, maybe valuable. Could be some kind of therapy, could be if it's a specific trauma, you may need trauma therapy, EMDR, you may need some very specific modality to fix or get to a very specific fixation you can't get to otherwise. Could be somatic work, could be TRE. I mean, there's a lot of things to work on in the shadow space. A good mentor who's really good at shadow work may also be good too. There are a lot of the sort of facilitators of awakening, like Ryan and myself or whatever. A lot of what we do is shadow work with people, and that just comes up. So, you trust yourself to find the resource you need, because I know you have what you need to find the resource. You have the intuition to find the resource. Look around. You might have to try a few different things, but you are now. That's kind of what you're sort of relegated to now, is really that shadow stuff, and could come pretty intensely for a while, come and go for a while. There's no particular pattern. Everyone's a little different, but you will become very familiar with it, and it's okay. This is just this is that part of the process.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Yeah, and best of luck to you, my friend. This is not easy material. It's not easy stuff to work through.
Really not.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen the documentary The Work, by the way?
No, I haven't. I keep hearing it mentioned, but I haven't seen it yet.
I think you're going to resonate with it. It's literally my favorite documentary, and I know all the people. I know the people are in it now. The facilitators. I'm working directly with them, and I get them to my retreats and stuff. And those guys know something no one else on the planet know. I don't know how they figured it out. I kind of know how they figured it out, but anyway, check it out.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, my friend. All right, let's go to Barry.
Barry.
Yo, Barry. Maybe went somewhere. Okay, we'll come back to Barry. I'll have to remember after this next one. So let's go to, we have two Aarons. Let's go to Aaron without a last name.
Hi, Angelo and Ryan.
Hey,
Hi. So I have a question regarding um the like during like so as I'm awakening more, I'm realizing that there isn't really anything going on because I'm seeing the visual field and noticing that first of all, it seemed flat, seemed really flat, like two-dimensional. And as I really contemplated more, it seems like as I look around my visual contextual field, I'm noticing that my body is within this flat field. So I'm noticing that it is actually one space or one thing in general. But as I'm noticing more and more that you know, the body being within the visual field, I'm noticing that there's more and more distractions coming towards me. Like recently, I had a friend that I grew up with. He was recently in a very traumatic incident um, regarding, he was regarding a police officer. He was shot, and he was hospitalized, severely hospitalized in trauma care. So I have all these different people that I know from back when I was, child growing up. They're calling me, and it's a lot of distractions as I'm noticing as I'm coming more in contact with just their awareness. Because I like to ask the question, who is this seer? And as I ask that, it brings me back to like a field of just being aware of everything in the senses. That question always seems to bring me back up, the sound, the sense of sound, the sense of of vision within myself. When I look in the mirror, I see the body within the visual contextual field. So I notice that the body is within the field that I'm seeing outwardly, appears to be outwardly, but it's really, one thing. So I'm noticing more and more that I'm within the awareness is noticing that the body is within of a one of something in whole in general. It's just one thing in general that the body is in. But as I'm noticing that, I'm getting more distractions from people calling me, and it's why is that? I don't understand why is that happening. It's like the mind is attacked. I feel like I'm being attacked by the mind, and it's like annoying and it's aggravating. It feels annoying. It's like I try to calm the emotions, but sometimes it's like the emotions get really sticky, and I'm trying to undo from them. Sometimes it's um, you know, uh, like concern, and I start and it get and the awareness starts to consolidate back down into the emotional body of concern, of of talking with people, and why did this happen, and why is this happening, and this and that. But as I'm trying to stay within the awareness of what happens, it's like I start to, it feels like I get lost a little bit, and then I have to really focus and come back out. But I'm talking with other beings, so it feels like it's hard for me to like. It's not hard, but it's not. It feels like it's a little bit difficult to focus on the awareness as I'm dealing with sensitive events and things that seem sensitive seemingly sensitive things that's happening. um and like with that, like with people coming in and calling me and how's things going and this and that, and can you come here now, and can you do me this favor, and can you do that. It's like a lot of like feels very sensitive, and it gets very sticky in the emotional body. It's like a little thing that I'm encountering, that I'm noticing.
okay.
And does anybody, I just wanted to know if you had any have you have any experience with that, or have you ever noticed that with other people encountering awakening?
Oh yeah. Oh, I definitely had to contend with that for a long time. Maybe sometimes still do to some degree. It's like, I guess I just have a few things to say to you, and you can kind of like do what you want with them. But one is, you're obviously the kind of guy who makes yourself available. Like people, there's a reason people ask for help from you. You know, they know that you're there for people. You're an available kind of guy. You're a compassionate guy, and that's good. And at the same time, the more awake you are, the more porous you are. Porous meaning like it's like, you know, you have, it's almost like walking around without skin on sometimes. You will just be more and more sensitive to everything around you. You're going to absorb people's pain, you're going to absorb their suffering, you're going to feel what they're feeling. It's just going to happen. So it's really you really have to learn to balance that out. And, you know, sometimes it means saying no, sometimes it means just practical boundaries, but also sometimes it just means putting yourself first in some sense, and that is giving yourself a time and space during the day to cultivate your own practice, to cultivate the presence, to cultivate your own sort of anchoring in the body and in presence, such that when you go out and you interact with others and you're in contact when people are in need and so forth, it doesn't just take so much out of you that you're kind of turned around and drained of energy, and you don't have the energy to kind of do everything you need to do. So I can't tell you exactly how that needs to happen, but I do sense you're going to have to work on just finding that balance. And it may just be proactively structuring amount of time to stay with yourself. If it's sitting in nature, meditation, whatever it is that you can just feel centered, recharged, and just sort of really steeping yourself in natural presence, give yourself that gift. You deserve that gift, and also it will help you to help other people if they ask for your help, or if they you know, ask for your presence. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And then the other is there was a couple of things that came up as you were describing is sort of like frustration, like you feel frustration when this happens, like that you're getting distracted, or that somebody's asking you and then you get kind of, I don't know, maybe in your head about it, or whatever it is. Even in real time, it can be really helpful just to notice the emotions, just to go, oh, I'm feeling frustration. Oh, that's what this is. This is just frustration. Okay. How does it feel? Where do I feel it? You know, or maybe I feel a little overwhelmed, you know. So sometimes just learning to nominalize a bit, to name the emotions, kind of tunes you into the energy of that emotion. And it sort of gives yourself permission to feel it. Just like, it's okay to feel frustration. It happens. It comes. You know, I may feel a little impatient at times. You know, I'm talking to my friend. It's really heavy. I can feel it. I can't wait till I get home and just chill out. You know, it's like, oh, that's impatience, right? Like noticing the textures of these emotions that seem like mundane, simple emotions can be really helpful, just to notice I'm human. I have these feelings. I have these emotions. Dials you into the energies and the sensations, and it kind of normalizes it. And then over time, they'll settle more and more. That's one good approach. It's like the analogy of the lost children who are knocking on your door. It's like, don't close the door. You got to open the door. You got to let them in. You got to find out what they need, what they're saying, what their voice, you know, is, and then they'll settle down. And so just be open to these different emotional textures, even if they come and go quickly. For all of us, we live busy lives, so we tend to sometimes go through things so quickly that we don't always stop and just acknowledge what you're feeling. That may be helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do, when I do have these feelings, I do let it sit in the body, and I'm aware of the feelings in the body, whether it be you know, what frustration, or just anger, whatever it is. I let it sit in the body, and I'm aware of it. So I do acknowledge the feelings of just existing within the body. And I look at it, and then I try to come back into the awareness of what is, of just what is in general, of who I am, of just being. Um, and then I try to sit there. It's just sometimes it comes, it goes, and yeah, but I definitely will continue to just be aware of it. It's just that my attention sometimes it gets caught, like when I'm talking and dealing with things, the attention seems to go into a direct conversation and get caught before I can bring it back into just the awareness of what is, of what the body is experiencing. Um, and you know, just didn't know if that was normal. I do notice where my attention is going when the emotions do come, and I look at where the attention is in the body of different things that's happening. Then I try to let it go, and then just acknowledge it, and just let it go, and then just be, and just to let it be for what it is in the body.
I think that's rather normal. Yeah, I do. For this stage of things, it sounds pretty typical. Yeah. Yeah. And as
Okay.
always, as always, it will evolve and change and shift and settle and then integrate and all.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a non-dual facilitator too that I'm so happy, grateful, and I feel really graced to be working with now in person.
Good. Oh, good. Good. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Ryan, did you have anything to add?
Yeah. So the difficulty with conditions or the difficulty with situations, preference or attachment to awareness doesn't help with that. So there's a tendency to want to retreat into awareness or to want to see or to actually see conditions and challenges as taking you out of the state or taking you out of what you are or taking you out of your practice. And the way to absolve that is to actually just jump into what is happening. Like, be the frustration, be the anger, be the confusion, be the overwhelm. And what you find is that awareness that is back here that you're receding into, it's actually also in everything. Everything is arising as that. So that's a direction that you could take too, in the sense that with what happened with your friend, and this is a period where a lot of people are reaching out to you, a lot is happening, your non-duality gets tested. It's not an accident that right after a big opening, your whole freaking life falls apart and all this and all these challenges come up. That's not an accident. Your non-duality has to get tested. If your see your non-duality as a sword, it has to get tempered. You can't let it get rusty. So stuff is gonna happen, and it's gonna make your sword sharper, and that's what it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I resonated with that too. I knew that things will be like, as I'm starting to awaken more, things like that will occur. It's just the natural progression of awakening into just bare awareness. I resonate with that, and then so that's what definitely I do resonate with that.
Yeah, you can't have your non-duality be limited to stillness, right? You can't have your awareness limited to favorable conditions, and that's why tough stuff comes up. It expands your practice.
So, okay, thank you, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Ryan. Barry has reappeared. Let's talk to Barry.
Barry found the unmute button.
Hey, man, what's happening?
How are you doing?
I'm good.
So, I've been meditating for like 20 years, and I found you at the beginning of this year, and, I've been watching the videos, I've been meditating, I'm doing TRE, and then this nagging doubt that, it's like a fly that comes around is like, oh, I don't know if this is working, maybe I should be doing this. I'll go over to Kevin's website, or I'll go, try circulating, and it's almost like it's a body sense first, that is like, oh, okay, I got this. This is getting boring, Okay, what's next, kind of a thing. So I'm gonna throw myself on Ryan's sword.
All right, Ryan, you wanna pull the sword out first, or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll impale you, man. Right through the chest. So yeah, it's like we live in this, we live in this spiritual marketplace today, and there's just so many options and so many teachers and so many practices, and it's almost like there's a pain from having so many options and so many practices and so much availability. And what's important is to really look at what is that that feeling? What is that mental formation inside that is reaching? Really become intimate with this part of you that is reaching for a teaching, or that is reaching for some other thing as a result of boredom. And I think that's a strong place of inquiry. Because fundamentally, when you get to the point of the recognition of your consciousness, and the deepening of the recognition of your nature, you'll begin to see that every practice, every method, every session, every state, every meditation is your nature appearing as that, your mind appearing as that. So if you still have the sense that the practice will produce something special, or that teacher, you can get something from that teacher, that's all with the presumption that it's something other than what you are, right? Like that if you had the sense that all of this is awake and you're all of this, whether you go to Ruber Spira, or whether you go to Angelo, or whether you go to this teacher or that teacher, all you're getting is your mind. So the real point is to orient towards that, and to deepen your realization of that. And when that happens, and that becomes the case, you can practice whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can listen to whoever you want. It's irrelevant, because all the practices, all the methods, all the talks, they're illuminated, they're awake, they're your nature appearing as that. But yeah, looking inward and looking at that part of you that is reaching, that part of you that's getting bored, and really observing that as a mental formation. You know, you're sitting there, everything's fine, and then it just creeps in. It just arises, it just materializes out of nothing, this boredom. You know, and out of the boredom, you're like, oh, I don't know, the boredom's a little uncomfortable, I need to do something. That's fundamentally what it is. The boredom's uncomfortable, I need to do something. So when you really let that discomfort and that boredom be there, you feel into that, you look into that again and again and again, this thing starts to unwind. So, oh, maybe there's something deeper here. Maybe there's a dissatisfaction. Maybe there's a sense of lostness. And you just go through the layers and you see, you know, what's really underneath that given layer. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Barry. Well, Brian pulled out his sword. I also have a sword. Mine's a little different. Maybe, I don't know if it's
It's a
sharper or not, but-
surgeon's knife.
well, I don't always pull out the sword, but you know, everyone's a little different. So with you, I sense you want me to be direct. Yeah, is that right?
Definitely.
You want to be, you've been around the block. I can tell. All right.
Yep.
Right. Right.
As anything I say, take it with a grain of salt. If it doesn't resonate, don't worry
Sure.
about it. If it resonates, great. Boredom is not what it appears to be. Boredom isn't what it appears to be. This is similar to what Ryan was saying. Like you go, oh, I'm bored. Let me go find something else to do. It's not that simple. It's not that innocent. There's something underneath the boredom. There's definitely something there. And it's, you know, it's a gold mine, really, if you're able to stop and really drop down into it. What's under that boredom may really surprise you. It may be something you've been running from your entire life. It may be something like existential fear. But be willing to really have a phase shift when you drop underneath boredom. Maybe very, very different than you think is going to be there. It may be very different than what you think awakening is, or could be, or what it's going to mean to you, or what it's going to give you. Do you feel into what I'm saying?
Yeah. What immediately comes up is that, you know, outside of a spiritual pursuit, you know, whenever I've felt bored before, I immediately went into, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I have to, and I take on this project. And so it gets the mind going, and, you know, then I get bored of that.
Sure. And you know what?
So,
That
yeah.
works great in the relative world. That will serve you well in the relative world, staying busy, being proactive, being goal-oriented, problem solving. But here it messes you up a little bit. It gets you like distracted with this distraction, then that one. You kind of bounce around like a ping pong ball. This is where you want to go down through it. So what I would what I want to say is you need leverage on yourself. You need to get leverage. There's different ways to get leverage. You can inquire directly into the boredom. Just say, I'm not going to leave this boredom. I'm going to stay here until it shows me what it really is. You can ask yourself, what is underneath this boredom? What's really happening here? I'm not going to run from this. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run anywhere. I want to know exactly what's here, what's really going on. I call it a one-pointed approach. In Zen, you might use the koan, what is mu, something like that. Work with a teacher, work with someone who can point you into this. Go to a retreat. If you've never been to a meditation retreat, do like a week-long retreat, something that really concentrate your mind and attention. But find a way to get leverage on yourself and don't bounce around. You don't need anyone's teachings. You need to go directly through your own experience. Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
you can
totally.
you can do this.
Yeah.
This is like kind of the ultimate adventure. And why not? You've done a bunch of other stuff in this lifetime. Why not just hit it out of the park and, really break through an identity barrier. And you can do it. Find a way to get leverage on yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got a final thing. I got a final thing for you, Barry.
Okay.
Since you have so much experience with practice and all of this, I think that, and this just came to me, so take it or leave it, but I think that if you put yourself in a room for a couple or a few days and didn't give yourself anything to do, that could be very, very, very profound for you.
Yeah.
No phones, no books, no people, nothing.
There'll be blood on the wall.
Just sit there and don't do anything.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think that'll help you, man.
All right, thanks.
Good luck, Barry. Good seeing
Okay,
you.
we'll talk to you.
Okay, let's go up to Jennifer.
Hello. How's it going?
Hey, good to see you.
I was almost hoping you wouldn't call on me. Wow. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, that's funny you guys were talking about that with the sword, because like the last several months, I feel like I've been in a battle. It's been interesting because, all this emotional landscape stuff just popping up everywhere, like not knowing where to go. It just seems like 1,000 things coming up at one time, so I can't even focus on one thing. But one like common question that kept coming up was, well, what am I even fighting, right? And then I just kept asking myself that, and it's funny because Ryan, you had talked earlier about like realizing that like, it's a part of you. So I felt like I had that insight that one day that this is a part. It's not a part for me. So I can feel this, right? And it seemed to slow down. Well, and then I could feel, but this past weekend, like I had like the freaking rug ripped out from under me. I was experiencing like this very joyous thing, and then all of a sudden it was just taken from me like instantly. And like I experienced like this heavy, heavy grief that it was just new feeling, right? And then at the same time, I'm coming down with COVID. So interestingly enough, that put me down, right? Like I had to physically be still for like multiple days on my couch with my feelings and my cheesy emotional music. Just like sitting here thinking and feeling at the same time. But I was having these really like nasty thoughts come up, right? And it was interesting because the thoughts could be frightening on their own. And I would think, well, it's just a thought. Well, then, and then I got to thinking, like, well, what is this thought? Because it keeps visiting me, right? Like things like, you're going to die. This is going to kill you. You're going to kill yourself. All these little thoughts that were coming up that I knew weren't true because I just knew they weren't, but they kept coming up. So I'm like exploring that and realize that like this intense sensation hits me And like I immediately, like my brain immediately goes up to this is going to kill you. And it's hilarious because I was like, wait a minute. It'll pull me up there and then I'll go on like, no, I don't want to, like, what? You know, and then I like go on this thought train for like 10 more minutes or something. And then my friend Numi, who I think just popped on, sent me a video of yours yesterday, which hadn't, she didn't know I wasn't talking to her about this. And it was a video you did on shame. And what you were saying would happen is the exact same things that were coming up in my head. And I remember hearing you say this like a year ago, because I haven't been watching many videos. Like you'd have a thought like, this is going to kill me. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Like a sensation can't kill you. But like that thought is keeps coming up. Like, and it's scary, but it's also funny. But I don't know. So like my inclination, what I've had over the last like month or so is that I need to just focus on the shadow work. Everything else I can put aside. But it's like I have trouble feeling into the sensations. And I even thought, well, let me feel this sensation a minute longer. And then the thought comes like, oh no, you're going to really get stuck in the sensation. Then you'll really want to die. Like, and I know it's just like distraction. But I feel like I took some of the power away from that thought though when I realized that it was just distraction and not me really wanting to like, you know, really thinking that I'm going to die from a sensation. So that's what I've been going through this week. It's been tumultuous. It's been insane. But I don't know if you had any advice for me. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I just have a simple comment. You know, when the thoughts get, I've said this before, like just as a kind of caricature of ego or whatever, you know, when the ego really gets threatened, the thoughts get really dark. It's just what happens, you know, and another way of saying it is when you start to feel something much more directly, like what it sounds like fear, when you start to feel fear much more directly, and we all have it buried within us, those are the kind of thoughts that come typically. And I always like use the analogy that sometimes I talk to people who are very early on in this process, haven't had an awakening or anything, and they're like, "Oh, I don't have a fear of death." It's like, "Oh, we'll find out. We'll find out about that." You know, when you start feeling fear full on, like Ryan says, you can drink fear. It's full on. I mean, there's not a person feeling fear. There's nothing but fear. It's just so full on. But the mind will still try to make those distractions and pull attention into the mind or whatever. Kind of has that mechanism. And yeah, that's when those thoughts get really dark. Like, oh, this is going to destroy me. This is going to kill me. I will go insane. I'll kill myself. Like, and you're just like, those are thoughts, but the acuity of that experience is intense, right? And that's just a sign that the thoughts are a sign of that. But the you can still go directly into the experience, just full on fear. It's okay, and it comes and goes, and over time it'll settle.
Thank you.
I like that you're smiling through all this, by the way.
Well, you could have caught me about 3 days ago. I was doing very emo.
Yeah, I know it's not. I know it's not always funny. What you got, Ryan?
Jennifer, do you meditate every day?
No, I'll catch myself doing like little 5 or 10 minute silent
Okay.
sittings, but not as a regular practice.
Okay, so with afflictions or with shadows, challenges, whatever it is, we really only have two options. It's either we make it go away or we get stronger. So if the meditation's only like 5 minutes a day, you may not be giving yourself enough time to develop presence of mind and to really deepen your attention. Like you mentioned that you were trying to stay with the sensations, and then it just got like more intense and the thoughts got even stronger. So what I recommend is that you dedicate yourself to a meditation practice and do it 30 minutes every day or more if you can. And gradually by placing your attention in the present moment and being able to focus exactly on what you're doing and really give yourself to what you're doing, when the afflictions come up, you'll be able to stay with them instead of immediately being pushed into rumination and into all of this like matrices of thoughts and worry and all of that. if you can gradually begin to control your attention, you'll be able to stay with the difficult stuff for longer and longer, and let that purifying awareness really unwind things. You know, that's really what's happening. Like, you could see these energetics, or these different thought forms or patterns, as if they have like their own life, and they don't want to die. You know, so when you're paying attention to them and you're noticing them and you're putting awareness on them and they're unwinding, they're like, I'm melting, stop. You know, that's basically what's happening. So so in order to, you know, deal with the nonsense that comes with this, you got to have a strong practice. Yeah, you got to have a strong practice. Your mindfulness has to be able to remain where you place it for long enough for the gem to emerge from the affliction. You know, otherwise it's this just keeps happening. I'm feeling it for a second. You just keep getting popped out. So yeah, 5 minutes is better than no minutes, right? But to really do the deep work that you're trying to do, you need to have some sharper tools. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's great advice. I'm a terrible practitioner, so maybe I should just focus on that. And that impression of my thoughts was dead on. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you got it.
Jennifer, you could set a timer or an alarm or a reminder, or you can also get an accountability partner. Those things all tend to help us increase our chance of doing something consistently. Okay, let's go. We can do one more. Let's do, I think Aaron's had their hand up, Aaron Baker.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, one of your videos is called Dissolving the Final Filter. And that video, probably more than anything I've ever seen throughout this process, really describes where I am at right now, the things I'm feeling, the sensations and everything. It's been interesting that, you know, like in terms of fetters, the sixth and seventh fetters, you know, the subject object and the perceiver kind of been gradually dropping away for a while. And then just a couple months ago, like they finally dropped away completely. Which, you know, it's a really cool experience. But also then it was immediately available, or immediately apparent, that like the only thing left was that really subtle sense of I am. And you know, I say the sense of I am just because that's how it's typically described. It really, to me, feels more like it's just like a pull,
Like a
back.
tendency. Like a tendency.
Yeah. Like it's the pre-thought. It's not even a thought. There's just this. Like I noticed it, especially in the visual field, and noticed it right away. It's like, I mean, it's just like this much.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a bungee cord that's just like, you know, it'll be out here, and then that cord just kind of keeps pulling back into needing to exist, I guess. And you know, whatever sense of self feels like, it doesn't really feel like Aaron. It just feels like a generic sort of sense of self, and it feels like maybe like a single atom that is just constantly, like, it's non-locatable. I can't pin it down. As soon as I steer attention toward it, it moves someplace else. Um, so I guess at this point, like it's clear that that's what's left, and that's it. And just that movement into the senses, the sense fields, is the only possibility, the only thing to do. It just keeps getting pulled back. I mean, it feels like there's not really anything to do other than just sort of continue the looking and continue until like eventually it just that pulling won't stop or that pulling won't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask about it and see if you know, if you guys have other words to offer about that.
Sure. Yeah, a couple simple things, because this is a very subtle thing we're talking about. One is, well, first I just wanted to say, like, for anyone listening, it can feel also, and maybe you can endorse this, it feels like um, almost like trying to pull back into an inner world that doesn't exist. It's like trying to find a place to regroup, but there's nowhere to regroup, and that's obvious. Something like that, but it's a tendency or a filter. But just a couple things for you. One is, what makes it challenging is there's nothing left to look with. There's nothing left to look with, right? So it is inherently challenging. It will probably drop on its own, and it usually does. I often see it drop on its own. I've seen people say things to themselves like, sit down to meditate and just say, how do I let go all the way? And they just ask the question and it just, something happens. I've seen that work. Uh, you know, you can just sort of just keep doing what you're doing and sort of just trying to notice where it is, when it arises, how it feels, kind of just sort of just the simple observation that's spontaneous. The only other thing I thought to offer for you is, as I was listening to you talk, is even though there's really nothing to like look with, because if it feels like you're looking with it, that is the self sense often. So, but even without that, there can still be this sort of baseline curiosity that just seems to be here. I think there's a natural curiosity that arises out of nothingness. Sort of, it is kind of inherent to luminous experience itself, maybe. And from that standpoint, what can be investigated is is there a dividing line between, or a moment or a place where the qualities actually change between the sort of luminous non-dual appearance, which might be colors and shapes and maybe sound, that's sort of not in any particular place, and it's also exactly where it is, and it's as clear as could ever possibly be. And there's that texture of the non-dual in all five senses, and then there's this, right? And it is, you know, can attention actually be moved between them? Does one have something extra that the other doesn't have? Is there any difference in quality of experience, so that that baseline curiosity can kind of be applied in that very precise way, even without trying to move attention any specific way? Because again, it's like, if you start to get heavy-handed with this, then it's like, it doesn't make sense, right? So can you feel into what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I do, because there, I don't know. The only way I can describe it is it feels like a sort of movement or a toggle or a
Mhm.
flicker, maybe. I mean, it's real
Yep.
fast and it's real subtle,
Yep.
but yeah, there is still something that can
Yeah.
be. Observed doesn't even seem like the right word, but yeah, it can
Right.
be. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
get it.
Then there's something extra there. There's something extra. It's not like you're even going to find out what it is, but you can notice there's something that makes it appear that way, right? Somehow there seems to be some quality, and you can sort of, in just a simple comparison between that and the experience of the non-dual presence, which is there all the time now, you can kind of discern that a little bit until it just settles out, and it may just, like that, settle out.
Great.
Yeah, that's all I have. Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah, I think a thing to consider is, and maybe this is good for other people here, is my looking or sensing for the me, or that little particle, that flavor of me that's remaining, is the looking for that generating it? Is the fact that you're looking for it what is keeping it there? So the looking, teachers, they always say, drop it, let it go, surrender. These are all actions. Those are all intentions. You intend to let go. You intend to drop something. You intend to look. You intend to observe. So when you said, I don't know if observing is exactly it, that's like exactly what I'm pointing at. I don't mean drop it. I don't mean let go, but just sit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
just
gets
sit.
that gets at it exactly. What feels difficult is they're still behind it. There's a need to, well, I need to look because I need to know what's happening or describe
Yeah.
it or grab it somehow. There's still that behind it, and then yeah,
Let it all
it's too much. Yeah, it seems like
let it all die, man. Let it all die. Yeah. Just sit there. It's over. It never began. Just sit there. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right.
That doing that intention, that is the final. This thing that keeps reaching, you know. So just sit.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I did also want to say, Angelo, I'm going to be at the conference in Denver next week, so maybe I get a chance
cool.
to say hello.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll see you there. All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry we didn't quite get to everybody. We got to almost everyone. Ryan, I appreciate it so much. And for
Yeah,
anyone watching,
appreciate you
we'll
too,
put,
man.
yeah, it's been a blast. We'll put Ryan's information in the description of this video. So if you see any part of this video, want to see Ryan's resources, you'll see it under the description, which is below the video. So thank you, everyone, again, for all of your contributions and your vulnerability and your practice and your heart. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
So
very
much.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
welcome.
you, Angelo. Amazing.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks, Angelo and Ryan. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, very, very much. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Very welcome.